Hello, I'm Finlay and you're watching the Run For It YouTube channel. I've got a lot of experience of different running shoes, some of which have helped me qualify and race at the Ironman World Championships in Kona twice. I've also worked for Run For It for over 10 years, so have a good understanding of how other runners have responded to varying shoe technologies over the years. So in this episode, we are going to be comparing the Nike Vaporfly 3 and the Nike Alphafly 2 against each other. Now, it's fair to say when you're at the start of any major race, these days you see a lot of these models on runners' feet or previous versions, and there's a lot of debate amongst the running world as to which one is the fastest. So before we go on to talking about the tech, we're just going to touch on that subject and talk a little bit about why it's not necessarily right to say that one is faster than the other. Now, while you might hear some runners saying that one of these options is faster, you just can't apply that as a blanket rule across every type of runner. And that's because we will all respond differently to each one. And by respond, I mean how much, if at all, our running economy will improve. Now, if you don't know what running economy is, it's effectively how efficiently we're moving at a given pace. And we can measure that by looking at how much oxygen is being consumed per kilogram of body weight per kilometre. Now, without going into all the science, carbon-plated superfoam shoes can effectively improve our biomechanics and how we're moving, and therefore lower how much oxygen we're having to use at a given pace. So, for example, when the Nike Vaporfly was called the Nike Vaporfly 4%, that's because the average improvement across the group of participants running in that shoe was a 4% improvement in their running economy. Now, the key piece of information there is that 4% was the average. So some runners had a much smaller improvement and some runners had a much bigger improvement running in these shoes. And that's what we continue to see in lab tests, is that runners will respond very differently to different carbon-plated superfoam running shoes. And unless you go into a lab and actually test yourself running in a specific shoe versus a control, you won't necessarily know that one is faster than the other. But at the same time, sometimes the lab tests don't even really accurately reflect what's happening in the real world. So it's also not the be-all and end-all, and we don't need to get too hung up on it at the same time. And what we do know is that the Nike Vaporfly 3 and Nike Alphafly 2 are very likely to improve your biomechanics, and as a result, you're probably going to run faster with more ease than you would in standard running shoes. So on that note, let's cover the tech and see how they compare against each other. So from a cushioning perspective, they both feature Nike Superfoam ZoomX, and this foam feels incredibly soft and incredibly energy returning. To put that into context, most running shoes return about 60 to 70% energy return. And while Nike don't release all the stats, they have said that ZoomX foam returns around 85% energy return, although there's potentially some tweaks to the Vaporfly 3 ZoomX foam that make that slightly more, but we don't know that for certain. And even though the midsoles look visibly pretty different, they actually have pretty much the same drop, 8mm, and very similar stack heights, both within that World Athletics legal limit, and they both have a full-length carbon fibre plate, but the exact shaping and structure of that carbon fibre plate varies subtly from shoe to shoe, but it's those small differences which ultimately might make a difference to how you respond in terms of improvements of running economy in each one. Where the real differences lie are actually in the weight, because the Vaporfly 3 does feel considerably lighter than the Alphafly 2, and part of that extra weight in the Alphafly is coming from the Zoom Air units in the forefoot. And to explain a little bit further about those, these air units are comprised of lots of fibres, which when you land on them, they compress and then they spring back, and that gives you even more propulsion under your feet. And while the Vaporfly is lighter, it isn't all about ultra lightweight as well, because some of this midsole shaping has been designed to make the Vaporfly 3 more stable than the previous version, and that was through some of the feedback from their elite athletes that they were still looking for that stability under their feet and wanted a more stable ride. Having said that, a lot of the reviews do suggest that the Alphafly 2 still feels marginally more supportive and stable on the foot than what the Vaporfly does. When it comes to the upper of these running shoes, it's actually very different. You can see the difference in the weave here, and that's because the Vaporfly 3 features Nike's Flyknit upper, whereas the Alphafly 2 uses something called an atom knit upper, and the Alphafly 2 ultimately has a little bit more support and a little bit more structure built into the upper material. And in terms of fit, like the key difference here is that the Alphafly has this fully gusseted tongue, so it fits like a sock. And actually, if you didn't have the laces tied up, the shoe almost doesn't come off your feet. It's that secure. Whereas on the Vaporfly, you've got this more traditional style tongue, although it is exceptionally thin and light. One of the key differences and changes to the Vaporfly 3 versus the previous model was that the toe box was made roomier, so this does provide a little bit more space in the forefoot if you have a broader foot. How do you pick between them then? Well, when it comes to what races are suited to, Nike designed the Vaporfly 3 for shorter distance events up to marathon distance events too. By shorter events, we mean the likes of 10K, whereas the Alphafly 2 is designed for those long distance days when you're looking for maximum propulsion and comfort at a very set pace. When you're doing shorter distance events such as a 10K, it's more likely that you're going to have to be changing direction, you're potentially going to be changing your pace more, and that's where the lighter Vaporfly will, one, accommodate better to those changes in speed, and it will also probably feel a little bit more stable when you're going around corners in comparison to the Alphafly 2. With the Alphafly 2, where that excels is when you want to get up to that set pace and you just want to hold it for as long as possible with minimal changes in speed and minimal changes in direction. And that's exactly how you're going to be running in a marathon. And in saying that, the Vaporfly 3 are still incredible marathon running shoes. And for some runners, these will be more efficient and feel better than the Alphafly 2 over the course of a marathon. In reality, it really comes down to which one fits your feet the best and what you feel most natural in. But in saying that too, some runners like both, and if you like one, you're probably going to like the other, and that's why a lot of runners will rotate between both of them for their training and for their racing. That's right, you may want to use these for training too. And yes, these Nike running shoes are a lot more expensive than standard running shoes, but one of the biggest benefits of these is how much load they take off your legs, and you just feel so much fresher after a hard session in these than you do in a lot of other running shoes. And that means that you can add more aerobic volume to your weekly miles, and it makes it much easier to back up those hard sessions with another run. I would say that because the Vaporfly 3 offers a little bit more stability around corners and the lighter midsole adapts to changes in pace slightly better than what the Alphafly 2 does, if you were going to pick one of these as a training option, then we would recommend looking at the Vaporfly 3 for that. In saying that, you really do want to have a fresh pair of Vaporfly 3 or Alphafly 2 for race day, because that's when you're going to get the maximum benefit in terms of improvements in running economy. So you may want to opt for something like the ZoomFly 5 for your faster sessions, because this has a midsole of ZoomX scrap foam and a full-length carbon fibre plate. So it's a lot more durable than what the Vaporfly and the Alphafly are, but it still delivers incredible cushioning and incredible propulsion. So this would be a great option for those interval sessions, those tempo runs, and even those long, hard marathon sessions. And that means you can save your Vaporfly and your Alphafly for race day, although we would definitely recommend doing a couple of runs in them first, just so you can break them in and get them ready for the day. In summary then, both of these are just incredible running shoes, and they're both likely to help you run faster in races. Now, what's really important to state is that these are not exclusively for elite level runners. And when we say faster, we mean relative to you. So what's faster in comparison to your steady pace and your slower paces? And when you look at an elite runner, their biomechanics are already very good. So there's less opportunity for improvement. So it actually could be the case that these shoes might have more of a benefit for recreational runners versus elites because they've got a greater amount of ground to make up in how they're moving. And that brings me to the end of this Nike Vaporfly 3 versus Nike Alphafly 2 running shoe review. We hope that dispels some of the myths about saying that one is faster than the other, and we hopefully have given you some advice on how to pick the right ones for you. Thank you very much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please make sure and hit that like button and subscribe for more content like this. We'll see you on the next episode.